In this tutorial, we'll touch on using Minder, an app that comes with Animer. However, the main thrust of this tutorial is to import a DirectX animation set. We will also touch on selecting a limb and then rotating that limb. I call it repositioning the limb, which is different from moving the limb. That's just my terminology. I'm not sure what the correct terminology would be except for rotating limbs. Before we can import an animation set from a DirectX file, we need to actually run it through Minder, or that is the best step to take prior to importing it. This just assures us that we can import it without any problems. So actually what we will do now is load up Minder, and the file that we want to repair or mend is a 341.x file. So we navigate to the file that we want to run through Minder and select it, open it. It is now loading the character, as you can see, and it does take a little while because it is a very large file. There are over 5,000 animation frames. In fact, I'm going to pause it and then come back when it's finished loading. Okay, it's now loaded. So as you can see also that this character is in the T pose, and so we're going to have to make sure that our character that we're importing the animation set is also in a T pose. It is very easy actually to repair a character file, and all you do is click on File after it's loaded and then click on Save. We don't want to overwrite the original file, so you will probably want to rename it. It could rename it to anything you want. So then we click on Save. Okay, now you can actually save a selection of frames, as you see here. But we are going to save all of them. So we'll just into a repaired file. So we just click on OK, and as you see that it's reading the animations, and then it's going to write to a file. Again, I'm going to pause it because this takes a little while. Okay, we're finished repairing the file. So now we go back to Animer, and we're ready to import. Well, not quite ready, but the TF341 character is now ready to be imported. So what we need to do now is to open up a file that we're going to import the animation into. I'm going to actually select the partial T pose because we don't need to go through the entire bit about changing the character's position. We probably would want to give the character some texture. We also might want to hide this viewport Now we need to first select the limb that we want to change the rotation of, and you could either select it by this way, by pointing to it. You can see that the on the bottom of the window is BIP01 underscore R underscore upper arm. So that's the upper arm that we want to select. So we just click on it, and as you see in the select limb, it tells you which is now selected. I know the from ACO's T-pose file, I copied down all of the necessary information for the X, Y, and Z positions of the limb, or not position, but the rotation position. And the X position is minus 28. When you enter in the data or value, you need to then press the enter key. This happens often. For some reason it doesn't take the first time, so we go ahead and do it again, and this time it took. And if you really noticed, I should have probably said to watch the limb as we enter these in. Now the Y is a minus 18. Enter. Z is a minus 49. Now watch the limb as for the Z rotation location, and I will press enter now. Now we need to select the right forearm. There's just one thing that position we need to change, and that's the Y position, minus 47. And then we need to do the right hand, and you can do this also by using the drop down list, and it's right underneath the right forearm. So we go down, select it, press enter. So now we can change the Y position, which is a plus 24, and you'll notice the hand will go up slightly. So now that we have the character in the T position, you will notice that the feet are probably the same as the character we're going to import. So now all we need to do is select File, then come down to Import Animation from DirectX or DBO file. Now we want to use the amended or the modified repaired file. So we do this, and again, this is going to take a little while to load because there are over 5,000 animations frames. So I'm going to pause it at this time. So it's finished reading the file, and up pops a window that we're familiar with from importing a BVH file. And the only thing that we're concerned about here is the frames and the offset. We're going to be importing the sitting animation or sitting pose of the 341 character. Now I happen to know, of course, again, the frame numbers. It actually starts from frame 160 and goes through frame 215. Of course, there's no animations in between. It's the same thing from that frame to the last, the first frame to the last frame. So we could probably whittle that down a little bit and say import frames from 190, and then press enter to 215. Press enter. We want to raise the character up just a little bit, and a 0.8 factor. Press enter, and then we click OK. And this should be quite quick because there's only 25 frames that it's going to import. Okay, as you see, the both characters are in the T pose, and it says if the imported model has a different pose than the character, then we need to set the character in the same pose. And then when we're done doing that, which we already are, we click OK. Again, it was quick because there was only 25 frames. There's a couple things you need to notice, and you probably already have noticed one thing, and that's the fact that the character's hands is above his knees or thighs. In fact, the 341 character's hands are actually resting on his thighs or knees, and that's mainly because the mesh of the 341 character is larger than the mesh for the thug character, and the pose or the animation rotation and positions of the arms and hands are a little higher. So what we need to do is modify or reposition the thug's limbs so that they are then look like that they're resting on his knees. The second thing I want you to notice is that the play animation from two boxes, text boxes, is from 2498 to 2523. There were 2,497 frames for the thug, and when the animation was imported, it added one and started out with 2,498, and of course another 25 frames brings it to 2,523. This you should write down, because you will need this information when you modify the thug's FPE file, because you need to add this animation to that file. So let's first work on the right side of the thug, and we can start with the right clavicle. So we select the right clavicle. Now there is only one rotation we need to change, and that's the Y rotation. And it's a minus 6.01. Again, it didn't take the first time, so we'll do it again. Minus 6.01. And now we need to reposition or rotate the right upper arm. Click on that. The X position is -22. The Y position is +36. And then the Z position is +10. And now we need to do the right forearm. Right forearm is a +21 for the X rotation and a -15 for the Y rotation. However, the Z rotation remains the same. And now we need to do the right hand. The right hand X rotation is a +56.07. Enter. Oh, I got a extra character there. Let's take that out. Enter again. And now the Y rotation is 36.89. And the Z rotation is 12.49. The last limb we need to rotate is the fingers. The X rotation is a -35.06. The Y rotation is 13.24, and the Z rotation is just slight. In fact, you may not even need to do that, but at any rate, I'm not completely experienced with this, and it does take some time. You can also use the arrow key to select a limb and then press down on the left mouse button and then drag it around until you think you have it where you want it. However, one of my problems is that I'm just not experienced enough with it. Here's the shoulder. So what I'm going to do is pause this again, and I should probably mention that you can now reset everything to the beginning if you don't like what you see for those limbs that you were trying to rotate. You can also use the reset all limbs, but we already had done the right side, and we don't really want to reset the right side. So again, I'm going to pause this, and then I will finish up the left side. Okay, I now have the left side positioned somewhat, repositioned. Again, this isn't perfect. I'd like to now hide the limbs symbols. And then let's play the animation from frame 2498 to the end. Whoops. Why is he hitting his knees? Well, that's because, and we'll stop it and then we'll move this to the beginning. This is where it starts, but the other frames have the same position as it started out with. So what do we do? Well, it's quite simple. All we have to do is go up to the main menu and click on Edit, and then copy the keys for all the limbs. We want to do this because it's there's several limbs that need to be copied. So we click on that. Okay, now we select the limb that we want to paste this to, and that would be the next one. And not paste key selected limb, but paste keys all limbs. And you notice that the character now has the same key limbs as in the beginning frame. So we do that with the next 23 frames. Most of the time you only have you don't have the same limb rotations for every frame anyway, and you're just wanting to copy from one frame to another. But this has multiple frames that are the same. I'm going to pause it and then copy or paste the rest of the frames. Actually, I almost forgot to explain that there is an easier and faster way to do that, especially if you have maybe 50-60 frames. 25 is even bad enough to try to go through. But what we can do is go to the very last frame and copy, or paste I should say, all the limbs here, and then go back to the first frame. Of course I already did several frames, but we can go back to the first frame that starts with the position that we are wanting, and that's at 25,005. And now what we can do, we select the frame, but we want to start from that. The play animation from and to is used in other situations where we're just not playing the animation. It's actually selecting frames that we want to do something with, and so we need to change this to 2505, and you always press enter after you actually enter. Okay, now this plays to or this goes to the very last frame, which is let's not loop this, and it goes from there to there. So what we need to do now is choose or select interpolate frames from 2505 to 2523. And what this does is it selects the first frame and the last frame, compares the two, and then interpolate the rotations from the from frame to the to frame. So here we go. Now we'll loop that and play, and we see that the character has the same rotation for the right and left sides arms. So basically we are finished with this, but we still need to save it. We need to actually export it to a DirectX file. And I'm just going to put with sitting, and we save it, or it is exported to that. Now it's not going to go quite as long. It's not going to take as long to write to the file, because there's only about 2,500 frames, and so therefore we're basically finished with this part.